He said I was too old and boring, so I left him and took the house with me. Hi, my name is Evelyn Carter, and this is the story of how I turned betrayal into power, heartbreak into healing, and a home into my ultimate revenge. It's a story about love, loss, second chances, and the quiet strength of a woman who refuses to be forgotten. I met Marcus in my final year of college. He was charming, ambitious, and always made me feel like the most important person in the room. We married young, built a life together from scratch, and for 27 years, I thought we were happy. We bought our first house when we were both still figuring things out. I remember the peeling paint, the broken porch swing, and how excited I was to turn that house into a home. Over the years, I painted every wall, planted every flower in the garden, and raised 2 children within those walls. That house held my dreams, my memories, and my sacrifices. But as the kids grew up and moved out, something shifted. Marcus became distant. He worked late more often, took solo vacations under the guise of business retreats, and rarely looked up from his phone during dinner. Then, one Tuesday morning, he asked me to sit down at the kitchen table. I still remember the smell of his coffee. He didn't look me in the eyes. His voice was flat. "Evelyn," he said, "I think we've grown apart. You've changed. We don't have fun anymore. You don't excite me." I sat there, stunned. I had dedicated my entire adult life to this man, supported his business dreams, held him through family funerals, made sacrifices in my career to raise our kids, and now I was not exciting enough? I didn't cry. Not at first. I just nodded, numb. Within 2 weeks, he had moved out, and not long after, I learned that he'd moved in with someone new, a woman named Talia. She was 26. I was 52. She was the age of our daughter. But here's the kicker. He didn't just move in with her. He moved her into our home. My home. The one I'd spent decades caring for. The one that still had the kitchen tiles I picked out during our second renovation. He didn't ask. He didn't even tell me. I found out through our son, who had driven by and seen unfamiliar lights on late at night. At first, I was heartbroken, devastated. I cried every day for weeks. I felt humiliated, discarded, worthless. I blamed myself. I wondered if I had grown boring, if maybe I should have tried harder to keep his attention. But grief, as I learned, can be fuel. One day, I was sorting through old files and found the deed to the house. And there it was. Evelyn Carter and Marcus Carter, joint owners. He had never changed it. I had every legal right to half of that home, and more importantly, a voice in what happened to it. I contacted an attorney, a brilliant, sharp woman named Claire. She listened patiently as I told her everything, then leaned forward and said, "Evelyn, you've got options. You have more power than you think." That was the moment the tide began to turn. With Claire's help, I filed a partition action, a legal process that forces the sale of a jointly owned property when the owners can't agree. Marcus was livid. He called me, voice raised, accusing me of being bitter, spiteful, vindictive. "How could you do this to me?" he yelled. I said calmly, "You did this to yourself." Then Talia messaged me on Facebook, of all places. She said I was jealous, obsessed, and needed to let go. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. The court proceedings dragged on for months. Marcus tried to stall, begged me to settle, even offered to buy me out at a fraction of the house's market value. But the market had shifted, and the house was worth much more now. Eventually, the judge ruled in my favor. The house had to be sold, and the proceeds split evenly. Marcus and Talia couldn't afford to keep it, not without liquidating assets they didn't want to touch. They had to move out. On the day the house was listed, I walked through it one last time. I ran my hand along the banister I had repainted 3 times, stood in the kitchen where I once made birthday cakes for our kids, and opened the closet that still held a few of Marcus's old ties. Then I walked out, head high, shoulders back. I bought myself a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment with my share of the sale. Bright, modern, and nothing like the house I had left behind. I decorated it with pieces that felt like me. I painted the walls lavender and teal, bought new furniture, and hung up artwork I had always loved, but Marcus had hated. I started taking dance lessons. I joined a hiking club. I traveled, alone at first. Then with a group of incredible women I met on a solo retreat in the Drakensberg. I read books, learned to cook Thai food, and even started dating again, something I never thought I'd do in my 50s. And Marcus? He called me a few months after the sale, said things hadn't worked out with Talia. He was lonely. He missed the way things used to be. He even asked if we could talk, maybe go for coffee. I said no. He made his choices. I had made mine. So to every woman who's been discarded, overlooked, replaced, know this: you are not too old. You are not too boring. You are not invisible. Sometimes, the end of a chapter is not a failure. It's a rebirth. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge is simply living well, unapologetically, and on your own terms. I didn't just take half the house. I took back my life. And I built something better. I used to think that walking away meant losing, that if I didn't fight to keep him, I'd failed. But now I know the real loss would have been staying, shrinking myself to fit someone else's comfort. I didn't lose a husband. I shed a weight. And in that space, I found myself again. It took time, but I began to enjoy silence without sadness, mornings without bitterness, and a future without fear. I realized I wasn't too old. I was just finally old enough to stop accepting less than I deserve. And as for him, he wasn't the end of my story. He was just the turning point. They say karma comes around, but sometimes karma needs a little push, and I was happy to give it one. Not with shouting or spite, but with paperwork, peace, and the power of a woman who refuses to be erased. If this story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe for more empowering stories from real women who refuse to be silenced. And remember, your worth is not determined by someone else's inability to see it.